I can't believe how many film festivals I've been to this year. It's like actually out of control how many film festivals I've been to this year. All right, everybody, what's up? We're talking about some more stuff from the Vancouver Horror Show Film Festival, VHS. I think they basically started with like, how can we make VHS an acronym? And they went with Horror Show, which I guess is something you can call a film festival. I'm not mad at it. It's just like, seems like they were working backwards a little bit. Today on the show, we're talking about some movies. First one is called 10 Minutes to Midnight. And now the draw of this movie, if you're like me and are a huge fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, then you know that one of the best segments of that movie is when they are in the radio station, starring Caroline Williams as the DJ, Stretch. In this, she isn't Stretch exactly, but she is our aging radio host, and some spooky stuff happens at this radio station, and that alone is the hook for this. This is essentially, it seems like they really liked that section of the movie, and they're like, maybe we can write a movie kind of similar to that, and I bet we can get Caroline Williams to play the role that she kind of played already in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So essentially, it's like a stormy night. She gets there, she is outside, gets bit by a bat or something, and everybody thinks she has rabies. And on this very night, she is being forced into a retirement. They have brought on the new host of the show. She's going to shadow her. And, it's kind of a movie about aging and, growing out of things. And it really kind of hits on that more later. The beginning and middle are kind of straight up like weirdo horror, gore-fest vampire movie. And then the third act completely changes into something else. We'll get to that, though. You've got a small cast of characters, but they're all fairly unique. You've got crazy security guard who thinks she has rabies or maybe is a vampire and things like that. You've got producer who looks like one of the Young Buck wrestlers. He's on the poster. If you see him right there, he looks like one of the Young Buck wrestlers. Then you got the station manager and her replacement. So that's all the characters there. This is a very short movie. I think it's like 70 minutes. So it does right away get into vampires destroying the station. Everybody kind of gets fucked up by vampires. And a lot of that's pretty cool, pretty standard vampire work. As you cruise into the third act, this movie turns into like a surrealist kind of, it feels like being John Malkovich, but without the introspection, it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain this. It feels like surrealism light. It's like, they're clearly trying to go for something with this, but it doesn't really work that much because we don't really know the characters that well. Sure, it's been 45 minutes of the film, but like the whole time they've been chasing fake vampires, or maybe they're real. It's hard to say. When it becomes like a thing where everyone has swapped bodies and she's at her own funeral, it's like, I get what they're going for, as it's kind of commenting on like age and things of that nature, kind of the full circle of life, the cyclical nature of doing things over and over again, kind of the work-life balance type thing. Maybe it's not even doing this. Maybe that's just what I was getting from it, because I was trying to figure out if this fucking weird John Malkovich world meant anything in this movie. I think it kind of works as a movie, but it just doesn't feel very coherent compared to what's happening in the first 45 minutes of this movie. It just kind of feels like it goes off the rails. Like every moment of this movie feels like it's going off the rails in a bad way. Basically, the only thing worth it in this movie is to see Caroline Williams' chaotic performance. Like, she is good in this. Like, I actually do think the cast is good in this movie. I just don't think the material really works that well together. I think this is probably the most interesting thing I saw at this festival, but I don't necessarily think I liked it. It definitely takes some risks, and I do respect it for that. To me, though, I'm going to have to give this one star, but I didn't hate watching it. It just was a strange watch. All right, last up from the Vancouver Horror Show Film Festival, we got an anthology film called Bad Candy. And this was kind of the one that I was looking forward to the most. Again, it stars a radio host, and on his radio show, he's kind of telling these stories, and it's actually pretty good framing for an anthology. And the way they do it kind of feels like it's a very fluid type of anthology movie, because I feel like sometimes anthology movies, they have like the bumper that explains why they're telling the stories, but these stories are all kind of connected as you see characters from each of them in other stories. Unfortunately, none of the shorts are very good in this. Like, they're all very confusing. None of them are very satisfying. Some of them are pretty cool and gross, but I don't think any of them are that interesting. As far as anthology goes, I think it's pretty solid, but I'm not the biggest fan of anthology movies, as you know on this show. This one's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I think there is a lot of stuff that works in it. I just don't know. Overall, it doesn't feel like it has much of a point. Basically, you have the first story where this girl draws like this killer clown, and he kind of is out stealing children and turning them into statues or something. And he kind of overlaps in a lot of these stories. He shows up in them, doesn't really do anything, but does show up in a lot of them. Then you've got Chili Billy the DJ, who's telling all these stories. And from there, you have a lot of characters that overlap. You've got like this party that has a whole bunch of people in it, and then like you see all these people, and later they come back as characters that are interesting. The second story is about like this coke dealer that gets murdered in a bathroom, and then the murderer is found later in another skit. You've got this girl that works at a morgue and fucks a corpse. That's kind of it's kind of fun to watch, I guess, for some. Then you've got this vampire Uber guy that's kind of in a lot of these. He ends up with his friends and they kill a bunch of people for Satan or something. Like Satan Bat Monster shows up. It's just like, they're all kind of confusing because they don't have enough time to really explain what's happening. And I don't know if they don't want to explain what's happening. It's up to you to figure out what's going on. But I do like that there is the overlap between the stories. I think that makes it feel more of a coherent thing. Unfortunately, none of the stories are very coherent, I think, is the main issue. And then you get to the final story where like the producer killed a guy that you find out, and you're like, I don't really know why any of this is in here and what it has to do with anything. I guess it doesn't because it's an anthology movie. I don't know. I think this one works for the most part. It does have a great neon aesthetic, and I think that holds it together. Like it is an interesting looking movie. And to me, this is maybe the best movie I saw at this festival just because it left me guessing. It didn't feel like a generic horror movie. It felt like an anthology movie that was trying to do something. I don't know that it was successful, but I think it gets pretty close. And honestly, I do like this one okay. I didn't hate this movie. I'm going to give this one 2 stars, but I do think that this is probably the best thing I saw at this film festival. Take from that what you will. Interesting festival. If I ever get out to Vancouver, maybe I'll attend it in person one day. To me, I liked the online format. I do like the online format of a lot of these festivals. I think that's fun. I did miss one because it was only playing for 24 hours, and somehow I completely missed that. But that's all right. I saw enough there. Had some fun, so that's all you can really ask for. If you got any comments about these movies, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, hit me up on social media at Movie Epidemic on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later.
Why don't you play us something, baby? Why don't you play us something, baby?
Start? I don't feel so good.